Okay, this is a review of the verb forms that we have learned so far, as well as an introduction of two new tenses. So I'm going to go rather quickly. First and foremost, all verb tenses can be divided into two parts. You have those of the imperfect system, that would be the ones I write in green, present, imperfect, and future. They are going to indicate action, which is not completed, and they're all going to have in common a present stem. You find the present stem in the second principal part. Is the infinitive. The infinitive gives the conjugation and the present stem. You see it here, with, mit, yak, and aud. To that stem, for all of them, you are then going to be adding some sort of thing that obviously indicates that it is whatever tense that it is, and then they are all going to share endings. O or M, ST, must tis int, and arvistur, more mini intor. Please remember that if there's an asterisk by them, those might be involved in the equations that you remember here. I plus nt, und. The Romans don't make them say int, they make them say und. E plus an M or E plus an R, a long one, is going to turn into an AM or an AR, and a short I before ris turns into what looks like a short E, but it's really a short I. Nevertheless, also remember that there are some of these that have an asterisk that simply eat macrons. Now, the present system is going to have the present stem, the present vowel, the present endings, and these are your present vowels here. And so if you have one of those plus an ending, then obviously it's present tense. If it is imperfect, of course, it has the BA. The BA is the symbol that lets you know imperfect. And for the future, remember there are two types, the BI and those that have the long E. Now, for the third IO and the fourth, they have I long E, and we all know that if I see I long E, future it will be. And that is then how you'll be able to recognize them with, of course, those endings. Now, please note as well that sometimes people think that there are such things as imperfect endings or future endings. There are not. Bombasbot is merely the BA symbol of the imperfect plus the ending M, ST, must tis int. And then, of course, over here, if it is BO, or we should say BI, plus the endings, bobis bit, bimis bit is bunt, but it's really not. It's just merely the BI plus the ending tis in that instance. And then over here, if you have the long E, you can combine the long E, which you will find, again, in the third conjugation, as well as the third IO and fourth. It just happens to have an I before the long E for the third IO and the fourth. You'll end up with as et, amis atis ent, ar eris ator, amor emini entor. And please note that of all of these, you've got to be able to ask yourself the question when you see a long E. Is it a second conjugation? Because it is, you're dealing with a present tense action. And if it's a third conjugation in which you see that long E, it will be future. Please note how you then translate the verbs. It would be the subject verbs, is verbing, does verb, or the subjects verb, are verbing, do verb, and so forth and so on. You can see the translation. Imperfect, remember, is going to be that it happens in the past, but was not completed, was verbing as you express it, or was verbed, or being verbed, if you would like. And then, of course, for the future, will verb and will be verbed. Moving on to the perfect tense. As you remember, the perfect tense is one of three tenses that are part of the perfect system. That is, that they are all going to indicate action that is not completed. And so, when you look at what we have here, you have the perfect tense, which we love simply because it is going to indicate a pattern that even irregulars follow, and there is not the vowel that you will mess up on. So it's merely perfect stem plus perfect endings, and we know those as E, isti, it, emis, istis, erunt, or the alternate ending ere. Nevertheless, as well, you now have an introduction of the two new tenses. That would be the pluperfect tense and the future perfect tense. First, with the pluperfect. The pluperfect tense is going to indicate action that is before another action in the past. And when you have that action before another action in the past, then it is what we call the past. Pluperfect actually is shortened for plusperfect, which means more completed. And so it is the action of the past. The future perfect is going to be an action that happens in the future, but it is completed in aspect or in relationship to another action. And I'll give you an example of those in a moment. But first, let's deal with what the forms themselves are going to look like. So here you have the pluperfect, in which you will have the perfect stem plus the pluperfect endings. And so instead of your endings isti it, imis istis erunt, you have your pluperfect endings, which are eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, and erant. Now, please, please, please be careful, because these all have dashes, but if they did not have dashes, they themselves could stand alone as the imperfect of the verb to be. Remember, the verb to be, sum esse fui futuris, is then in the present, sum esse sunt, but in the imperfect, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. Here, however, you will know that they are endings and not the imperfect of the verb to be, because they will be attached to the perfect stem. You will see that V sucks, or the fact that it will be a lengthened stem or a reduplicated stem. Now, how do you express action of the past? You use the helping verb in English, had. So think about it in terms of two actions of the past. I brush my teeth, I take a shower. So this morning, before I brushed my teeth, I already had taken a shower. I already had showered. And so, even though I have two actions, brush teeth and take shower, one is in the past, the other is actually before it, and thus in the past. And the way that we express it is with the helping verb had. So anytime you see a perfect stem plus any of these pluperfect endings, I had verbed, you had verbed, he had verbed, we had verbed, y'all had verbed, they had verbed. Please understand the difference between had and has or have. As a helping verb, has and have merely mean completed. Had means completed even before something else in the past. Future perfect. Future perfect, as I said, is an action that happens in the future, but as perfect indicates, it is completed. And so, future perfect is going to take a perfect stem, once again, same stem as shared by all of these, and now a new set of endings known as the future perfect endings. And those are ero, eris, erit, erimis, eritis, and believe it or not, it is the one instance in which the Romans will make them say int. It is erent. One of the reasons why they do that is to make sure they don't confuse it with erunt. The Romans do, in fact, make them say int in this one instance. And so, thus, these, again, just like the pluperfect, if they did not have the dash indicates that they are an ending and that they are going to be attached to the perfect stem. But if they did not have the dash, they could stand on their own as the future of the verb sum esse. The present again, sum es est, sumus estis sunt. The imperfect, eram, eras, erat, eramus, eratus, erant. And the future, ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis. And if it were the future of the verb, it would be erunt, but I'd have to take off the dash, and when it is the ending erint, E-R-I-N-T, and when it is the word erunt. So, the future of the verb to be, ero, eris, erit, erimis, eritis, erunt. The future perfect endings, ero, eris, erit, erimis, eritis, erint. So let's say we do have a future perfect. How are we then going to translate it? Well, you will first have to indicate it's in the future, will, and then you have to indicate that it's completed, have, and thus you will say, will have. So, two things are going to occur in the future. Let's say, 1, I will drive home after work, and 2, I will eat dinner. Both of those are going to happen in the future, but I can say, before I will eat dinner, I already, because it is completed, will have driven home. And so, in that way, you can have an action that is in the future, but you can indicate its completion, because that is at its basis as to what has and have indicates. It indicates completion, and that's why it is a translation by itself of has or have for the perfect. But when it's future perfect, it then will be will have, as in will have verbed. So, that's all there is for the pluperfect and the future perfect. It's merely perfect stem, Perfect stem, remember you find that from the third principal part. Very often it'll have a V, like amawi, or audiwi, or a S, or a U, or an X, V sucks. It could be lengthened, like yakio, yakre, yeki, or mido, midere, misi, well that one actually has the S of the V sucks. Or it could be reduplicated that we see in some instances, but perfect stem, perfect endings, I, isti, it, imis, istis, erunt. Perfect stem, pluperfect endings, iram, aras, erat, iramis, eratis, erant. And by the way, in this video, by simply watching it, if you name the 3 instruments, I will give you a free 100 that you take online on Canvas. The first one is clarinet. Then for future perfect, it is the perfect stem plus your endings, ero, eris, erit, erimis, eritis, and erint. Once again, the only instance of the Romans saying int. Your second instrument is trumpet. And then you, of course, have the translations of perfect, the subject verbed, did verb, has verbed, the pluperfect, the subject had verbed, and the future perfect, the subject or subjects will have verbed. If you have any questions, please just let me know. I'm going to put some stuff on Canvas next week to let you practice with these 2 new tenses, but this week we have, obviously, the old tenses that we have known so far, present, imperfect, and future, and then, of course, perfect. I certainly encourage you to please complete them. You'll have to obviously be familiar with all of this next year as we begin Latin 2. Your final instrument is drum, and so I encourage you on Canvas to take the quiz in which you merely have to list off the 3 instruments from this recording of going over our regular verbs. If you have any questions again, just let me know.